Hello friends, this is VINEET Pandey in a very special video, and as you remember, William Shakespeare once said to his friend that nor marble walls nor those images, nothing can make you immortal. He said, I can make you immortal through my writings, through my poetry. And the same thing was said by Toru Dutt, the Indian writer, who said that the tree which is lamenting the loss of a brother and sister is also going to die, but she says that she will save that tree, the casuarina tree, from oblivion's curse by writing a poetry. Yes friends, it's an attempt to talk about my pet dog. You all know that I have a pet and I'm very much connected to those things. I really want to talk about that who are dogs. When I got to be in touch with my pet dog, my feelings got changed, my emotions got changed. For the first time I started realizing them, their meanings, their eyes, their expressions, their gesture. And then a sudden thought came to my mind that how this human society, which has formed a social relation, a discourse, how they perceive the role of these pets, how they talk about those animals, those who are the part of this life. जी हाँ दोस्तों, in the particular video we're going to talk about the roles of dogs in literature, in life. So दोस्तों, you must have heard this thing that श्वानों को मिलता दूध वस्त्र भूखे बालक अकुलाते हैं, माँ की सूखी हड्डी से चिपक ठिठुर जाड़े की रात बिताते हैं. From this dialogue using the word श्वान, and then the great line श्वान निद्रा तथैव च, where they say that students must have the quality of sleeping like a dog. We have two references of dog, and then how can you forget Dharmendra, कुत्ते में तेरा खून पी जाऊंगा. So that kutta word, that dog word, how these people are, these animals are the part of our life. That's my point of view. So I'm going to talk about the role of dog in literature, and let's start with the very first writer, Plato. Guys, a lot of people have no idea about that. Plato is the first person who took the reference of dogs talking about women. He said, as a female dog equally participates in the work, when the male dog goes for hunting, female dog takes care of puppies, and women are just like them. When the male goes for work, male goes for exploration, male goes for the daily routines, women takes care of kids, household and family things. So here we have the first reference of dogs in chapter 5, Republic. After this, the most important reference of dogs is discovered in the famous work of Homer, Odyssey. The most important character of the dog here is Argos, A-R-G-O-S. Guys, you all know that Ulysses, he was participating in the war of Troy. He fought there for 10 years, and when he was returning to his kingdom Ithaca, he lost his way. After 10 years struggle in the ocean, when he returned, he found that his wife Penelope is under stress because there are a lot of people, they are forcing her to marry. Ulysses goes there under disguise, and he finds his dog Argos in very dilapidated condition, in very bad condition. Argos is actually very old, suffering from lysis, suffering from infections, and nobody is actually taking care of. He's totally neglected. When Argos finds Ulysses under disguise, look at the love of that pet. He realizes that he's Ulysses. He's the only person, only dog, only pet that realizes that it's Ulysses. And you know what took my heart away? That the book says Argos was on his deathbed. He could not even move to lick the feet of his owner. He just raised his ears and started moving the tail. But Ulysses, knowing this thing, that if he goes closer to his dog, his disguise will be revealed, he just left and passed by with a tear, and Argos dies. That actually took my heart away. So how these people, they have perceived dogs, this is the content here. We're going to talk about dogs, their roles in literature, how Shakespeare talks about these things, and moreover, this is very, very important because you must be knowing that in UGC NET exam, there was a question that what is the name of Belinda's pet dog? Then there was another question that in French Kafka, the trial, when Joseph K gets punished, when he dies, what does he say? The last line is, he says, like a dog. So this is the content, and let's talk about how William Shakespeare has described dogs. Guys, so in Shakespeare, we can say that Shakespeare was fond of using the imagery of dog, and there has been a proper study, and they believe that Shakespeare actually hated dogs. So here we have few quotations taken from all those books. I especially worked on these things for you guys. Please write it down. Bulldogs are adorable with faces like toads. They have been sat on. It's one of the famous lines from Midsummer Night's Dream. While in Julius Caesar, he says, I had rather be a dog and bay the moon than such a Roman. If you talk about that, how love has been compared to dog, in the famous work, There is a great line, I had rather hear my dog bark at crow than a man swear he loves me. It's line taken from Much Ado About Nothing, where somebody is talking about the love and saying that somebody who is claiming his love, talking about love, I will prefer hearing a dog talking and barking. Then we have a great line from King Lear. King Lear says, thou hast seen farmer's dog bark at a beggar. So the question, have you ever seen a farmer's dog barking at a beggar? The lines have been taken from King Lear, and in Shakespeare they have great messages. Like we go for the next quotation, you'll find out what Shakespeare wants to say actually. He says, thou call me a dog before thou hast cause, but since I'm a dog, beware of my fangs. Yes friends, this is the most important concept related to Antonio and Shylock. Shylock keeps on saying that Antonio hates me and he calls me publicly a dog. Guys, let's talk about the most important thing, Alexander Pope. How Alexander Pope has described Belinda's dog Shock. There was a question in UGC NET that what's the name of Belinda's pet dog Shock, and how these women, they were very much attached to their pet dog. So I'll quote a very famous line from Alexander Pope's works, and in Alexander Pope's works, Rape of the Lock, they say, no louder shrieks beating heaven were cast when their husband or their lapdog breathed their last. Yes guys, the 18th century fashionable women, how they have been portrayed. Pope says that no louder shrieks repeating heaven were cast. They were not crying, they were not like, in comparison, there was no different cry when their husband or their lapdogs breathed their last. And remember this thing friends, that it's not the only thing. You have to remember that once Alexander Pope, he has written a great work on dog, a work which is actually related to dog, and I am going to read that line for you. So make sure you remember that Alexander Pope wrote, I am His Highness dog at Q. I am His Highness dog at Q. K-E-W guys, please make it correct. And then, pray tell me sir, whose dog are you? Guys, yes, the very attracting lines were actually written on the collar of a dog that Pope gave to the Prince of Wales in 1738. And the message is that we all belong to somebody. We are loved, we are owned, we are governed. It means we are all somebody's dog. So guys, let's take a break and tell me, do you ever imagine that why we are supposed to read these things in detail? Like many of you are preparing for UGC NET, and I'm sure 50% people will say that is that related to UGC NET, or actually he is wasting time. Yes, when we were working on those videos, we got a lot of opinions. People said that don't do that, it will be against your image. But I said that if there is anybody looking for JRF, he will go for all those details. Friends, do you know that when you're preparing for UGC NET, actually you just prepare for passing thing. So do you prepare to be the master of that exam? Let's take an example. How many of you are reading Virginia Woolf? You will say that we all are reading Virginia Woolf. It's actually very important. And all those self-acclaimed professors, they are saying that read To the Lighthouse, then Dalloway, Room of One's Own, Orlando. Guys, this is basic. Everybody reads that. But how many of you know that Virginia Woolf is one of the only writers who has written a biography from the perspective of a dog? And the most important thing is that the concept has been taken from Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Yes guys, the 19th century Victorian writer Elizabeth Barrett Browning, she wrote a famous work, To Flush My Dog. It was a poetry. To Flush My Dog is actually a real dog. She was having a pet dog. Virginia Woolf read the poetry, got inspired, and wrote a novel called Flush, a biography. And can you even imagine that what kind of mindset has been involved here? Flush is actually a pet dog of Lady Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and he doesn't like Robert Browning. So as I'm keeping using the word Barrett Browning, I must tell you the story has been set in an early year when Elizabeth Barrett came in contact of Robert Browning. And Robert Browning, as we all know, he fell in love with Lady Browning when he went to meet her. It was the love at first sight. Flush doesn't like Robert Browning. In fact, the story has been narrated from that point of view that he started hating. He thought that he is the male and Lady is his women, Lady is his female, and Browning is the third person. Story has been written in a point of view that once Flush tried to bite Robert Browning, then Flush, he gets lost and he gets abducted. Robert Browning goes to save him by giving some money, giving some coins, and this is how the pet dog Flush forms an affection with Robert Browning. Remember, many of you have your pets and you must be knowing they just love you. Even if you just give them a simple pat, they start loving you. So that's the whole story written from the dog's point of view. Now, do you know the great work Where is Frances, also called The Dog Beneath the Skin, written by W.H. Auden and Christopher Isherwood, was also inspired by a real story. A lot of students who are preparing for NET, they must have missed this most important concept. elegy on the death of a mad dog. Do you even imagine that Oliver Goldsmith, one of the greatest writers, wrote this elegy where a gentleman in the city is bitten by a mad dog. The mad dog dies instead of the gentleman, and how the city of London, the people of London, how they react to this incident. This is the most important thing. Remember this thing, friends. Once Mr. Walter Raleigh also wrote some lines. He said to a lady with ill-mannered dog who has bitten many noble class gentlemen. There is a Walter Raleigh has also written the poetry. All you have to do is pick those lines, go for the references. Remember, in trial, when French Kafka's character Mr. K has been punished, he has been murdered brutally. The last line he says is like a dog. So these are the concepts which has been asked in NET. What I suggest you is go in depth. Like you must know that there is the character of the pet dog Diogenes in Dombey and Son. Then we have Robinson Crusoe's dog. We have multiple other characters, books there. They have direct references of the dogs. Like Rudyard Kipling, he has written a poem on dog. And I'm going to tell you a lot of other names in this video so that you can get the whole list. Remember, if once asked you Belinda's pet dog, they may ask you some other question. Remember, in Two Gentlemen of Verona of Shakespeare, the famous pet name Crab, it has been asked in West Bengal set. So you remember, the dogs, they are being asked, they are being used as references, and they are the part of our language. How they have been taken for loyalty, how they have been taken for cheapness. You remember, just imagine, we see you are a dog, we say sometimes, but dogs are the most loyal people. The dogs are the most lovely things, right? So what I mean to say is that it's just not a word. It's actually a social construct, and we must understand these from social point of view. Now, I really want you to make notes. So guys, I'm going to recite certain names, and make sure you write down these details with the names of the pet dogs and the writers and their books. The first pet dog here we have is Blue, B-L-U-E, taken from Sound and Fury, written by William Faulkner. And yes, this is very important. Then we have character Buck, B-U-C-K. It's a dog, and it's been taken from the book Call of the Wild, written by Jack London. And I must tell you that Jack London wrote one more book, The White Fangs, where the name of the dog is White Fang. Then we have the most important pet dog, Bull's Eye, and the character is discovered in the great book by Dickens, Oliver Twist. Then we have Shakespearean character Crab. It's a pet dog, and it appears in Two Gentlemen of Verona. Then in Dickensian novel, in Dombey and Son, we have one more pet, Diogenes, D-I-O-G-E-N-E-S. Then the famous work written by George Eliot is Adam Bede, and here we have a dog called Zip, Z-Y-P. Remember this thing, it is G-Y-P. The same name, Z-I-P, the same name Z-I-P, Zip, has been used for a pet in David Copperfield. Remember, in Robinson Crusoe's dog, the dog's name has not been given. It has been just called Robinson Crusoe's dog. And the most important name of the pet dog, Laska, appears in Anna Karenina. Remember, in Anna Karenina, they once asked what is the name of the pet horse, and that was Frau Frau. So in next exam, they may ask you what is the name of the pet dog. It is Laska. Jerome K. Jerome has written a famous work, Three Men in a Boat, where the subtitle is What to Call a Dog. The next one, Peter Pan, written by J.M. Barrie, has one of the famous pet dog character, Nana. Then we have Jane Eyre, and a lot of people have no idea that in Jane Eyre, we have a pet dog called Pilot. Remember that along with these things, Matthew Arnold celebrated his pet dog Zeist, Z-E-I-S-T. He wrote a poem on his dog calling Zeist Grave, and it is one of the elegy. And the same happened to Emily Dickinson when she wrote A Little Dog That Wags His Tail. Thomas Hardy, he has also celebrated the pet dog, saying a popular persona at home. And as I told you that Dylan Thomas has written the collection of articles and stories under the title Portrait of the Artist as a Young Dog. So these are the most important thing, using the last one, Rudyard Kipling, The Power of the Dog, with the books and the names of the dogs. I suggest you all to make a list of it, and yes, please write in the comments that what kind of video you want in next, because we are working on double JRF series, and there are a lot of topics which are actually above the level of an average student. So I really want you to know that there is some difference between a topper and the average people who just dream to pass. So if you are dreaming for JRF, then only you have to watch my video. If you are just struggling to qualify NET only, and you are okay with the NET only, then you can go for multiple other videos. Thank you so much, and yes, contact me on 85870 35827. Thank you so much. Take care.